Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and today I have the pleasure of bringing you, in this video, the Warlock class tree overhaul, as well as the Destruction Warlock changes heading into Midnight Alpha. Thank you, Blizzard, for giving early access to this client a day in advance so we can make some of these videos and get a deep dive into how things look. We're going to be covering the class tree and Destruction in this video. Destro will probably receive the least changes, still a decent bit, though, heading into Midnight, and I want to try and get the class tree in one video without, making its own video because there's a lot coming out today. Speaking of that, if you're looking for the demonology video or the AF video, these are all coming out at the exact same time. So check the channel. They're all going to be there for you guys. Whenever one's out, they're all out. At the same time, we are pushing for 100K subs on the channel this year. If we can get there, phenomenal. I love you all the same, whether you're subbed or not. But if you're not subbed, maybe consider subbing. It would mean the world to me. But regardless, I appreciate it. Shameless plug over. Let's get it going. So we're going to hit on the class tree here briefly. I'll put timestamps for the class tree and Destro. We're going to look at Destro in combat a bit here too. Destro did receive probably the least amount of changes, but there's still some changes here that are worth going over, and it's still cool thematically. But there are some things I want to mention and address, and probably make some feedback videos in a few days as well, looking at other things. Getting into the class tree here, so there are some things in the class tree that I'm excited about, and some things where it just feels like it's still maybe a little bland, but at the same time, it's a class tree, and I don't know what to expect of the other classes' trees maybe being changed to. So, Fell Domination is here, 3-minute cooldown, 90% cast time reduction on your pet or whatever. Hopping up here gives you a minute reduction on Fell Dom, all of that. It's just sort of there. I really wish pets were a shorter cast time, or I summon in general, but is what it is. Burning Rush is here, same thing. Fiendish Stride hasn't really changed. I really wish we would have gotten more of a damage reduction on Fiendish Stride. I know initially in Dragonflight it was probably a bit excessive, the damage reduction that it gave, but Burning Rush hurts still, and I think it probably should be higher than 10%. But regardless, it is what it is. We still have 2 points up here in Fell Armor and Demon Skin. They could probably be 1-point talent nodes a good bit too. That's just that, but hey, it is what it is. It's worth pointing out that we are indeed level 80 here, so we will indeed have 3 more points to spend in the class tree. We're 90, plus 4 in the actual spec tree, but they're all probably going here, and 3 more in the hero talent tree, but these aren't filled in yet, so it's, whatever. No hero talents, from what I understand, have any of their new rows in yet, so whenever that comes out, we'll make another video on that. But expanding upon that more, you've got Fortitude here, Embrace here, Coil here. They're all the same. You got Fell Pact here being a minute cooldown reduction on Fell Domination. It just feels like Fell Pact doesn't really need to be here. It's whatever. You can just make this baseline a minute shorter. Skin and Armor are fine, but they can be 1-point nodes. It just feels like it's a bit... It just feels sort of not bland, but just a bit generic. Generic is a good way to put it. But at the same time, based on other talent point reductions and such, there's a world where these 3 points you're going to get at 90 just give you enough utility regardless. If that's the case, then it doesn't really matter for 2-point nodes if you can still get what you want. So it's worth keeping all that in mind. Moving on from there, we have Banish on the far left. Same thing as Banish has been for a long time. We have Curse of Exhaustion here. Replaces weakness while active. Reduces the target's movement speed by 50%. Interesting change there. You have Tongues here, which is talentable as well. Replaces weakness while active. So basically, if you take one of these, it's going to replace Curse of Weakness and give you Tongues in its place, or it's going to give you Exhaustion in its place. At least that's how I look at it, right? To clarify, NYI means not yet implemented, so it might change a bit still too, but a bit of a change curses there. You don't get all 3, you get basically 1. You get to choose. Improved Mortal Coil. Casting Mortal Coil grants Soul Leech equal to 1% of your max health, which is pretty low. It probably should be 10%, maybe 5%. Coil's the same thing. It's an in cap. I have, I think, 60k health right now. It would give me 600 health of a shield Soul Leech, which is pretty... We'll see where that goes. It is NYI, might be changed. We'll see what happens. Dark Pact is here. It is not 5%. It's just a modifier from here. So Dark Pact's the same. Minute cooldown, sacks 10% of your health for a shield. Circle's the same. Soul Link is here. It's the rank 1 value, but it is a rank 1 talent. They moved it from down here up here. So there's that. You've got Horrify and Nightmare here. Same things. I really wish Horrify affected Mortal Coil. I know it's not a fear. It's an in cap, but having the ability to coil a mob and plus to heal yourself or just stop the cast it's doing and have it tremor in place would be really awesome. Because coiling a mob in plus is very scary for a lot of reasons. Sometimes you have to, but you don't really want to. So maybe if we can add coil to this, it'd be really nice. Go from there. Share of Vitality is here. Healing done by Drain Life also heals your primary demon for 100%. I don't think it's really needed. It's sort of whatever. You've got Abyss Walker being the same for Circle here, which is it's not played in a couple places, but not really. You've got Foul Mouth, which is interesting. So this is one of the spicier ones. Casting Curse of Exhaustion, Tongues, or Weakness now curses all enemies within 10 yards of your target. So, for example, if you are playing Curse of Tongues, which is here, which will replace Weakness if it's there. If you're playing Exhaustion, it'll replace Weakness as well. If you cast it, it now curses all the mobs within 10 yards of that target with that effect. So I'd assume for the most part, if you're playing Tongues and Plus, it'll not tongue all the mobs, which is nice. There's a lot of packs with multiple casters. I wouldn't mind applying Curse of Tongues too, but I don't want to have to cast it 4 times. I will, but this makes it a lot easier. So a bit of a quality of life increase there. That's nice. Good to see there. Ichor of Devils don't are the same. Infernal Beneficiary. Dark Pact also shields your primary demon for 50% effectiveness. Probably more of a PvP thing. Don't see much use in PvE. They shouldn't die in PvE in the first place. If they are, it's probably bugged. So a bit of an odd one there. Let's see where it goes. Yeah. Dark Accord, same thing. Strength of Will, same thing. You've got Swift Artifice here, which reduces the cast time of Soulstone and create Hellstone by half, which is nice. You need to take Artifice now to get into Pact of Gluttony. Demonic Hellstones are still here. Same thing. Demonic Stones, awesome. Good to have around. Love playing them as expansion. So here to stay. You have to take Artifice to get into that. Honestly, I'm okay with that, depending where talents land in the long run. Moving on, we have Demonic Resilience here at 2 points. PvP, I'd assume probably. Probably won't take it much, but if you want it, it's there. We have Gorfiend's Avarice. Drain Life now channels 50% faster and restores 50% or restores health 50% faster. It's another node that just sort of feels. I really don't ever cast Drain Life in PvE, maybe in PvP, but there's a lot of like interesting nodes like, well, Gorfiend's Avarice or Shared Vitality or improved coil and things. You just feel like they could be something else of more interest, more relevancy. We'll see where it goes, but a 2-point node here, this is like a dead node, it feels like, for the most part. You're taking one of these to get into Soulburn, likely. It's probably Frequent Traveler, just due to the 1-point talent rank. We do have Frequent Traveler being a new talent, reduces the cast time of Demonic Gateway by 0.5 seconds. You can now use Demonic Gateways twice before triggering cooldown, which is pretty cool. Not like super relevant, I guess, at times, but reduced cast time's nice. I feel like I usually use Soulburn and Gateway at this point anyways, but we'll take it. Not the end of the world. Nothing changed with Soulburn as well. Same thing for Circle, Gateway with Drain Life, Health Funnel, Hellstone, which is solid. You've got Fell Synergy here. Soul Leech gives you a bit of healing and absorption on your pet. If you're trying to get Soulburn, it might just be a Traveler and a Soulburn kind of play for this. These just, but we'll see where that goes. Dark Fury's here. Same thing for Shadow Fury. Shares a node with Howl of Terror here. Choice node there. We got Gateway here, obviously, and this is not implemented. Not sure what it's going to be. And our final capstone, a little spicy. If you were a fan of Venthyr, it's basically Impending Catastrophe. Blight of Weakness calls forth a cloud of cloying shadow mist that envelops the target and all enemies within 10 yards, increasing the time between attacks by 100% and reducing their crit strike chance by 10% for 12 seconds. Curses, a Warlock only have 1 curse or blight active per target. So I'm curious if the time between attacks is like a weakness effect, or if it's a caster, maybe it's like retroactive and increases their cast time by a bit too. It wouldn't be 100%. It'd be whatever Tongues is, which is sitting up here at like 30, 40, depending on the modifier. But either way, this could have a lot of M+ relevancy. At the same time, crit strike chance, I mean, interesting. We'll see where it goes. It does seem similar to Venthyr. It's NYI. Not sure if it's going to do damage or not, but if you wanted that curse relevancy in M+, it's there in a sense. I think a lot of the curse relevancy, though, does sort of lie in having the ability to have the ability, being curse or blight of weakness, smart curse mobs, where if you're going into a pack, it'll tongues the casters, weakness the melee mobs, and then go from there. If it's just pure weakness on things and the mobs are casting, or if it's just pure time between attacks being melee attacks increase and mobs are just casting a bunch, might not be as exciting. So some changes might be needed there, but either way, it looks to be pretty cool, Impending Catastrophe-esque, and we'll see where that goes. Class 3 thoughts overall in the end. It looks better point-wise will have 3 more points here at max as well, so you can probably get what you want for the most part, but a lot of like sort of just generic nodes I wish were a little more flavorful. Things like improved coil. I mean, the cursing sort of whatever, I guess, but improved coil, Fell Pact, Gorfie's Avarice, something else in here heals too. Yeah, this thing, a lot of just like whatever kind of nodes, but we'll see where it goes in the long run. Okay, shifting gears here and getting into the Destro tree. We're going to try and go through here sort of fast, but hit on everything because I want to show combat here in a minute as well. For the Apex talents, we have Embers of Nihilum. Casting Incinerate is a chance to evoke an echo of a Dark Titan's power. Sargeras. Hurl an ember torn from Nihilum, I don't know how to say that, but it's fine, some big planet, at the target, dealing Shadow Flame damage and an additional X amount of damage to all enemies within 10 yards. All enemies. Damage reduced beyond a target, but still, there's that. Building upon that, passive here at 2 ranks. Memories of a Titan's destruction flash in your mind when you evoke Dark Titan's power. So basically, whenever this procs by casting Incinerate, whenever it procs, you get 4% haste and crit, and it would be 8%, I believe, at rank 2 out of 2. I believe. We can check that actually. Let me see here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3. Yep, 4 and 8. So it's actually a good bit. 8% haste and crit seems pretty strong there. That happens if you get a proc, and then building upon that, casting Chaos Bolt or Rain of Fire. So adding another spell into what can proc this, or 2 spells being Bolt and Rain of Fire, evokes an echo of the Dark Titan at 50% or 60% effectiveness, whether it's Bolt or Rain of Fire. Echo being this. So basically, Chaos Bolt and Rain of Fire can proc this at lesser power. If no target is found, a random target suffering from your Immolate or Wither will be selected. So probably more Rain of Fire there if you're spamming Rain and not targeting anything, right? But either way, giving more spells the ability to proc this massive Titan Sargeras Death Beam, which is very cool. Also, this effect here is pretty solid too. 8% crit is nice. 8% haste is pretty strong too, depending on the uptime. So very cool to see. Every lock spec summons something massive. Destro gets literal Sargeras. Af gets a Dreadlord. Demo gets a 3rd dog and a Soulkeeper. Very, very cool. Getting into the tree itself here. So Destro received probably the least changes overall, but it still received a good bit. And it's the spec that I think might need maybe the most attention out of all 3 on Alpha in some areas, but we'll see where that goes. So Conflict Rate, same thing. Backdraft, Rain of Fire, same thing, at target, at location, whatever. So they've split Improved Conflict Rate and Roaring Blaze. You now just get Improved Conflict Rate baseline if you want it, which is a 3rd charge of Conflict Rate. Very nice. Bit more mobility there, but in general, nice to have around. Cool to see. Fun playstyle. Roaring Blaze is over here, but it no longer increases fire damage. It now says Conflict Rate now erupts to target's Immolate, or Wither, I'd assume for Hellcaller, spreading it up to 3 nearby enemies. So this is the way you're going to, one of the ways you're going to spread Immolate or Wither and maintain it. Don't worry, Kata is still here. There you go. It's okay. It still says all enemies as well. Half a minute cooldown, don't worry. But if you want to maintain it, this is probably how you're going to do it for the most part. Now, the cool thing is you're going to be casting Conflict Rates probably passively baseline, so it should just spread and maintain regardless, passively. So there's that. But we will see where that goes in the long run. They've added in Practice Chaos, Mastery, and Intellect things here, just tuning knobs. Mayhem and Havoc are here. Rolling Havoc is gone. However, you basically have Havoc lasting 15 seconds, which is right here. 60% modifier, half a minute cooldown. Mayhem is Mayhem. And Improved Havoc increases the duration of Havoc by 5 seconds and increases the damage of Havoc victims. Increases the damage Havoc victims are dealt by an additional 10%. So Mayhem will get the actual modifier from the 10% increase. I don't believe it increases Mayhem's duration. We can check that right now, actually. Let's see. If we toss it in here, baseline Havoc is 15. Baseline Mayhem is 5. So we can take a look and see. I didn't check this, actually. Yeah, Mayhem's still 5 seconds. However, Havoc is 20 seconds, and both receive the damage modifier. So you have a 20-second Havoc with a 30-second cooldown. That's a pretty strong cleave profile. Mayhem still brings that higher high end, I guess, but without Rolling Havoc being a thing, Mayhem won't have as high of a high end without as much of a low end by trying to chain Rolling Havoc for a long time. So Havoc looks really strong with Improved Havoc. Cool to see there. We'll see how relevant the profile is in the raid fights and so on going forth. But also good in M+2, right? EP, same thing here. Scalding Flames, same thing here. You have Asher Remains and Backlash being 2-point talents now, which is interesting. It does sort of seem like they could have stayed one, but I guess it depends what you have talent-wise. There's a lot of like shadow burn modifiers here. This is where I'm a little curious as to where it plays out pathing-wise, because you've got a lot of shadow burn modifiers over here, not the same amount of talents over here, but keep in mind you're getting 4 more points for your class tree when you hit max level, but they're probably all going into your apex talents. If they don't, that's an issue. They're probably undertuned. So we're not really getting a whole lot more access over here for extra talent nodes, and having things like backlash and Ashen Remains and rapidity and conflagration of chaos and ruin, a lot of 2-point nodes here does scare me a bit. We'll elaborate upon that further in alpha and see where it goes. But either way, 4% crit chance increase, physical attacks can proc incinerate, instant cast. There you go. Embrace, sack, same thing. Ashen Remains, once again, increase as well at 2 points. Heading down from there, you've got Cataclysm. Same thing as it is now, half-minute cooldown, no shard cost or anything. You've got Lake of Fire. Cataclysm now leaves behind a Lake of Fire that deals 5.6k fire damage to enemies within it over 8 seconds. Wither deals 20% increased damage to enemies within Lake of Fire. Same thing with Immolate if you have it there. So being able to hold mobs in the Cataclysm, and I guess in the Lake of Fire, makes things take more damage from your Withers or Immolates, and just more damage in general. So it's like Firestorm-esque for Evoker, which has been a very controversial talent. We'll see where it goes. It is like a effect you want to put down to have mobs stand in. It's going to be infuriating seeing mobs move out of it, but at the same time, look at it in combat here and go from there. I think it is cool expanding upon Cataclysm too, though, but ground-based effects, we'll see where it lands. Flashpoint's the same. F&B the same, Infernal's the same. They have not added Shadowburn to Crashing Chaos as a damage increase. I think they really should do that, but it is what it is. Crashing Chaos and Reign of Chaos are the same. You have Entropy being the same. This is still here. I don't really know why, but as long as we're not playing it, it's fine. Miserable to play with. Minari Erudition, whatever this is, another modifier, no big deal. And over here we have Shadowburn. I don't believe anything's changed for Shadowburn. Still a shard cost, atrophies here. We also got Cruelty here as well, building upon Shadowburn even more. So over here we have Chaotic Inferno, increases Chaos Bolt damage by 5%, and Chaos Bolt now has a 1 in 4 chance to make your next Incinerate instant, which is interesting. So not just Backlash being the only thing that does that, you now have Chaotic Inferno doing that as well. You also have Ember Storm here, giving you a damage increase to fire spells, and reducing the cast time of your next Incinerate, of your Incinerate by 20%. Which is nice, sure. Passive quality of life, I guess. It's fine. Over here, we have Ruin, which has become a 2-point talent. To a similar extent, we also have Destructive Rapidity over here, which is interesting. It increases how quickly Rain of Fire deals damage by 25%, and how quickly your Infernal's Immolation Aura deals damage by 10%. Now, this looks to be a case of creeping death for Affliction, where it's not reducing the active duration of Rain of Fire, it's just having it occur 25% more often over the same duration, which is actually better than it just, ending faster. We'll look at that in combat in a minute and see where it goes, but this in conjunction with Alice's Ire, Alithia's Ire, whatever, Rain of Fire has a 20% chance to reduce the cost of your next Rain of Fire by 8 seconds by 100%. This has, I feel like, visions of old what was it called? Inferno gameplay in a sense. It looks like it could be pretty crazy depending where it goes in mass AoE, but we'll see what happens. Could be pretty sick. So I'm excited to see where this plays out in dungeons later on in testing. You have Conflagration of Chaos here being a 2-point note as well. Building upon the abilities here, you've got Demon Fire Infusion and CDF over here, and I feel like we need to add more to Demon Fire Mastery. So if you look here, the bolts are still there. They do damage, all that. Same thing with Demon Fire Infusion. But I forget what the ability is called, but there's no extension of Wither and Immolate here anymore. That is gone. Your Immolate and Wither extensions and maintenance, whatever, is basically Roaring Blaze. You apply it through Kata and cast Conflict Rate on a target that has Immolate on it. And honestly, in testing a little bit done here, it seems fine. It just spreads passively for the most part. But in like mass AoE with like 10, 12 targets, some do tend to fall, which can be a little annoying. And if we don't have the extension clause tacked onto CDF, or even like DFI, but really CDF, whether you put it into CDF itself or put it into Demon Fire Mastery, I don't think you're going to really play it anywhere unless you end up unless it ends up being way overtuned. So if we're looking at adding a bit more like quality of life to that, I think that'd be a really good add. Just bake it into Demon Fire Mastery, because it sort of feels like a subpar capstone as well. If you put like the extension clause into Mastery and have this feed into it, that feels like a worthwhile capstone, giving you quality of life, extension, and all that. And going from having that quality of life and playstyle into the Cataclysm Roaring Blaze playstyle, it won't be as bad because Roaring Blaze does supplement that as well, and it spreads to 3 nearby targets, but I have had it fall a little bit in mass testing a bit. It'll feel a little bit worse, I think, and I don't really want that to be the case going from one playstyle to the other. We're trying to improve quality of life and things, but we'll see where that plays out in the long run. That probably be what I suggest there. Ember is the same thing. More shard fragments, improved castable tier 2, same thing. Incarnate, same thing. Once again, this is the Rain of Fire reduction, or basically free Rain of Fire whenever you cast Rain of Fire chance. Heading over here more, this is the last big change they've made. You've got Dimensional Rift and you have Soulfire sharing a talent node. Now, Decimation for Soulfire is gone. There is no free Soulfires with reduced cast time, which makes me say, I doubt I want to play Soulfire. Unless I'm pre-casting it on the boss, it seems like a miserable spell to cast. It's a 3.5 second cast time on a long cooldown, and honestly, it's not doing a whole lot of damage. 2.4k, my bolt's doing 6k, Incinerate's doing 1.5k. You've also got Rift over here, so you're taking one of the two if you're heading into this part of the tree. Shadow Tear, Unstable Tear, Chaos Tear. There's 3 charges, I mean, 2 of them are doing the same damage as Soulfire, essentially, right? Or more. But they lead into Avatar Destruction and the Overlord, right? So whenever you cast Rift or Soulfire, it summons an Overlord for 8 seconds, generating a Soul Shard fragment and casting bolts. It's an Overlord we know now. The basic, just passive Overlord's proccing is gone. There is an ICD on Dimensional Rift for summoning Overlords too. You hit a spam 3 and spawn in 3 Overlords. I believe it's half a minute. It looks to be 30 to 40 seconds on the CDR, the internal cooldown, or sorry, the internal cooldown ICD on Overlords for Rift. So you're going to want a weak warrior to track when did I Rift last, which seems sort of awkward. Alternatively, you can just play Soulfire, but without Decimation, Soulfire is back to feeling miserable. Not sure how we're going to do that. I like Overlord, don't want to go away. It does feel a little clunky over here, though. I wish there was more of just like a Rift part of the tree that brought back like Flame Rift and Space Time, and I wish Soulfire was still here with Decimation and all that stuff. I'm a little concerned with this part of the tree. It might play out really well, but without there being like an indicated cooldown of like, hey, I can Rift for an Overlord now, you're going to need a Weak Aura. At the same time, I guess you have a Weak Aura with Soulfire, it having just a baseline cooldown of 45 seconds, but it just feels bad hitting Soulfire, so without Decimation. So we'll see where that goes. And here is Mark of Ruvard. Your primary demons, crit strikes, deal 20% damage in Shadow Flame, and Mastery, Chaotic Energies increases damage dealt by his effects. So, and that is, basically your Mastery. So Destro at its core is still the same. There's some good changes here. I love the Havoc changes, very, very cool. I love Third Conflagrate. Roaring Blaze, Spreading, Immolate, and Wither is actually pretty good too. I like Lake of Fire. I wish it was some kind of like mobile spell. I think it's like the capstones need some attention though. Like we probably need to add duration increase back to CDF or Demon Fire Mastery. This feels pretty subpar as a capstone. This feels pretty sick. Incarnates, whatever. This feels sort of, it's fine. It's just passive as a capstone. Feels sort of eh. And I like Avatar. I like Rifts. I wish they were better tuning wise. But Soulfire without Decimation feels a bit awkward, and needing a way to track the ICD of Rifts or of Overlord with Rifts feels weird too, and it just feels sort of awkward being behind this wall here. I think at its core, the changes to Destro are good, but when you get to like the capstone part of the tree, it gets a little scary. At the same time, there is still a bit of a lack of movement for Destro. Third Conflagrate does help a bit there, but I'm concerned with the movement, concerned with these talents a bit here, and concerned with a lot of 2-point nodes being, 2, 2, 2, and just 2 and 2, and a bit of a lack of extra talent flex points to try and get like Shadow Burn and things as well. Because in the end, the 4 points you get for this tree are realistically going into Embers and, well, summoning Sargeras. Alrighty, now if we're looking at destruction, we're going to look at the Apex talent first here. We have, once again, for those that missed it, remember, Embers of Nihilum, I think, right? It's going to summon an Ember from Nihilum, basically an Echo of Sargeras. I haven't actually seen this yet. I literally waited to hit record in this video to look at this with you guys right now. I do want to mention the Destro tree currently on retail, so not this part of the tree here, not including Apex talents. On retail, it currently has 42 talents spent in the tree. However, unlike Demonology and Affliction that have less talent points, this tree actually has 2 more. It has 44 potential talent points in this tree in any configuration, not including Apex talents. I do think this section of the tree, like this line up, is actually pretty solid for the most part. This section down here probably needs some help. A little bit. I think the help probably needs to be somewhere in like Rift, Soulfire, Avatar area, maybe with Rite of Ruvavard or whatever it's called, and CDF needs some help too, probably, because in this form I don't think I'm going to play it. But either way, I want to look at the Apex talents because it sounds super sick. See where it goes. Look at a single target build and an AOE build. AOE looks a little more interesting because you have things like Aleth's Ire and Rapidity and all that, but let's see. So for those that don't know, Embers, casting Incinerate has a chance to evoke an Echo of the Dark Titan's power, which is an Ember, basically. Looks to be Shadow Flame-esque. Shadow Flame damage. This gives you haste and crit whenever it procs. This makes the Chaos Bolt or Rain of Fire have a chance to also proc Ember. So basically, it just procs passively, doing your rotation. So let's jump into it. I'm just going to hit these and see what it does on AoE. Yeah, also keep in mind, if I configure my target that has Immolate on it, it's going to spread. So let's do this target right here. There's a Wither. There's 2 more, and there's the last one. That's pretty sick. Let's cast some Incinerates and see what happens. See if anything happens here. I have not seen the visual here for this ability, if there even is one. I don't know, but we're going to find out together. Okay, was that it? That's pretty sick. It's like a Shadow Flame beam that comes down, actually. That's pretty sick. I'm actually curious if Fire and Brimstone would proc it even more often because you're casting more Incinerates. Not sure if it would work that way. It looks like it might be a little buggy, actually, because some of the visuals aren't showing or they're coming in like behind my character and cutting off. But if that's the visual and it's maybe like more defined when it looks like it might be a little buggy. That's pretty sick, actually. I wouldn't mind seeing like a meteor or something come down every once in a while. But yeah, that splash effect there, yeah, that looks sick. When that splash effect hits, that's super sick. And keep in mind, this can proc, that's pretty cool, through Rain of Fire, through Chaos Bolt, and all that as well. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I actually don't mind that. And it's purely passive, too. Also, the buff it brings, 8% crit and haste is something. That's, like, legitimately pretty solid. When we get damage meters and things, we'll look at what the average uptime is of the effect, but that seems pretty good. So if you want to shift gears here and try and look at this in a single target setting, I'm going to pull these 4 talent points here because we're not 90. I don't have the 4 extra points we'll have at max level. I'm going to pull these. I'm going to hop into what I assume are going to be more single target based talents. So we're going to go here, here, and here. Now, we talked about Rift and Soulfire sharing a talent node here. Decimation is gone. Soulfire is just a 3.5 second glob of fire you hit. Now, whether you hit your Soulfire or Dimensional Rift, whichever one you choose will summon an Overfiend, like Smolderon, basically. It's not summoned anymore when you just spend 15 soul shards. Hitting Rift or Soulfire does that. Now I'm going to play Rift here. We know what Soulfire does. Without Decimation, very long cast time, gives you a shard. It is what it is. Nothing changes there. I will say, when it comes to Dimensional Rift, it might seem like, oh, I have 3 Rifts. I can summon 3 Smolderons. Unfortunately, I'll hit it once here. There's one. Hit it again. There's only one. So there appears to be some kind of internal cooldown. I think it's somewhere around 30 seconds on summoning an Overfiend, which means you're likely going to want a weak aura to track when your last Rift was cast, unless you don't care about summoning a Smolderon or an Overfiend, but I would assume you're going to want to. Realistically, I think Soulfire is a bit awkward here. Soulfire is a 45-second cooldown. There's your weak aura right there for it, but I feel like this should maybe change. I like having Overfiend around still. I wish Rifts had their own section where it was like Rift into like Flame Rift into space-time here instead. We'll see where it goes. Maybe it changes. Maybe it doesn't. But I feel like without Decimation, Soulfire is not going to be played unless this gets buffed like 1,000% and it's just some massive nuke every half a minute or so, give or take. But Regardless, Destro is, for the most part, Destro. We don't have Soulfire here, so we're just going to open up, I guess, precasting Incinerate into a Wither, put the Infernal down. I'll pop a Rift. Why not pull out Smolder on here? Didn't spawn in. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Maybe a longer ICD than I thought. Who knows? That's okay. Cast a Chaos Bolt, another Bolt, Conflagrate, Bolt, Conflagrate. The biggest thing here is that we have 3 Conflagrate charges passively, which is super sick. It does make things a bit more fluid. You also could play something like Shadowburn if you want it for mobility and all that, just where it depends what you're looking for. It might end up being the play overall in the long run, depending on where it lands, but having 3 charges of Conflagrate baseline is super sick. At the same time, if you want to opt to try and play Havoc, or if you're in like a Havoc cleave base setting, let's just say we're pulling out of this stuff because whatever, hopping into Havoc and improve Havoc, this gives you a 20-second Havoc. It's a 20-second ability, 15 plus 5, with a half-minute cooldown. So let's just say I'm in combat with 2 spread mobs, Council Cleave fight, any kind of Havoc-based fight. Let's say they're coming around in here, whatever. Oh, I'll put up a Wither on both, put my Infernal down, why not? Let's put up a Havoc. The duration of Havoc is just so long. I mean, look at the remaining duration here. Chaos Bolt, Conflagrate, Chaos Bolt, Conflagrate, Chaos Bolt. We're halfway through the window. Chaos Bolt, Incinerate, Chaos Bolt, Conflagrate, Chaos Bolt. Dude, it lasts so long. It's off cooldown again in 9 seconds. Like, this Wither actually fell. Like, Havoc lasts so long. That's awesome. Like, not only does it increase the duration by 5 seconds, but it also gives a 10% additional bonus. So, like, Destruction Warlock being that 2-target cleave-based spec, it lost its identity a lot, I feel like, in Dragonflight, when you had Havoc, but there were so many classes that are better at Havoc cleave, or, like spread cleave, 2-target cleave, and all that. Destro got it back. It feels like a bit more thin towards, like, Undermine and stuff. It definitely has its identity back with Havoc cleave in Midnight. 20-second Havoc with a 70% modifier on it and a half-minute cooldown is super sick. Destro is back to being the king of 2-target cleave. Now, when it comes to AOE as a Destro lock in Midnight, I have actually taken the liberty of pulling 4 points out of this tree and tossed them into the Apex talents. I want to see how this looks in AOE. We're going to have 4 more talents when we hit 90, so you'll have 4 more over here, essentially, if you're looking at the tree like this. I pulled, I think, 2 points out of Ruin, 1 out of Improved Chaos Bolt, and 1 out of Chaos Incarnate to go over here. I just want to see what it does in AoE and how cool it looks, right? The changes here, once again, if you want to spread, or I guess refresh, withers or immolates between cataclysms, it's basically casting Conflagrate on your main target. It'll spread and refresh them. CDF's duration extension ability is gone. Probably needs to come back. Without it, it's probably never replayed unless it's way overtuned. We're playing Cataclysm still. To apply Wither or Immolate in AoE, you've got Lake of Fire here, which leaves behind a patch of fire. Mobs in it take more damage from Wither and or your Infernal's Immolation Aura. Actually, no, just Wither. Sorry, Immolation Aura is down here in Rapidity. But Rapidity increases how quickly Rain of Fire deals damage. So from what I can tell, this does not reduce the active duration of Rain of Fire doing its AoE. It just causes it to occur 25% more often within the same time frame. It's 6.9 seconds for Rain of Fire with this being talented. It's 6.9 for Rain of Fire without it being talented. So that's the way it looks. And you also have Alyssa's, whatever it is, Ire down here. I think this is one of the Warlocks from Sunwell, the Twin Eridar, I believe. Yeah, there you go. So it take a bit of testing to see if Fire and Brimstone works with Embers of Nihilum. But either way, I want to see how it looks here, because visually, this is pretty sick. And I don't know. Let's see how it feels. So let's hop into this. Throw down a Kata. I am playing Hocaller. There's my Infernal. Conflagrate once. Hit my Malevolence. Rain of Fire. Conflagrate. That's a free Rain of Fire. Rain of Fire. Rain of Fire. Dude, it's just... Okay, Incinerate. Conflagrate. Rain of Fire. Incinerate. Conflagrate. Rain of Fire. It's not like fully extending all the withers, which is a little interesting when I'm hitting Conflagrate. It probably needs to be a little smarter to where it like checks for the lowest active wither and then refreshes wherever that one is. But it doesn't take a whole lot to maintain them until Kata comes back around, which is happening literally right now. So Kata reapplies basically all of them. That didn't hit Pandemic there because it's bugged. That bug's still around from Alpha of Dragonflight, but hey, here we are. Rain of Fire, free Rain of Fire, Incinerate, Rain of Fire, Incinerate, conflict right here, which actually refreshed those two duration-wise. The one in the back is not getting refreshed, which might actually be a bug with the stat count on Wither. I bet that actually is. But regardless, though, I mean, it feels like Destro, but having the extra Embers of Nihilum slamming down actually looks really cool if you're looking at that visually. In like a 9-10 mob pull, when you're getting it all together, that's going to look super sick. Without seeing damage meters, it's hard to tell where we're at exactly in damage, but visually, it looks really good. And as far as like single target damage is concerned, once again, you're going to have 4 more points over here, essentially at 90. So you can still put 2 points in Ruin, a point in Improved Chaos Bolt, and a point in Incarnate, or whatever you want. You could even pull out of Fire and Brimstone and hop into, like, Chaotic Inferno, which is a bit of a Chaos Bolt damage increase. So we'll see where this goes. I think Destro received, overall, I'd say, the least changes. But it probably needed the least comparatively to AF, certainly AF and Demo in a sense. I wouldn't mind seeing a few things change with things like Rift, Soulfire, Avatar, and a couple other things here and there. Some just like this is sort of like a placeholder, just whatever talent, but we'll see where it goes. Either way, visually, super cool. I'm pumped for it. Lake of Fire is cool as well. Hey, I wouldn't mind, instead of like the cracked earth visual, maybe having more of like a smoldering lake of lava it's in, like a red defile. That'd be super sick. Maybe that's the case long term. This is Kata's visual anyways. I believe on retail, just goes away faster. But we'll see where it goes. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in Alpha. So, thanks for watching, guys. It wraps it up. Hope you enjoyed the video, and hopefully you're vibing with, well, the general vibes of Destro, at least a decent bit so far, heading into the first, wave and/or week of Alpha. I want to give a huge thank you to Blizzard for giving me early access to the realms here, test this out, and make these videos for you guys. Thank y'all so much for the opportunity. I greatly appreciate it. Like I said, as far as like the Destro tree is concerned, I think like the Gate 1, Gate 2 talents before the capstones begin honestly are pretty solid. A couple things could change here and there. I'm pumped for Lake of Fire. I'm pumped for the new Rain of Fire effects too. I think like the Dimensional Rift Soulfire part of the tree could change. I want to keep Overlord around, but I want to have like my section of the tree where it's like Rift feeding into like Flame Rift or Space Time or Rift resets. Soulfire and Decimation could still stay around. Honestly, if they can find some way to work it, it'd be super sick. People like Soulfire now, which has been very hard to do. We've gotten to that point, and bringing it back to where it was is going to feel like a bit of regression, I think, as far as like rotational fluidity and all that's concerned. And Channel Demon Fire probably needs to have the MLH/Wither extension added back to it. I don't think, unless they really overbuff it a bunch damage-wise, it's going to be played at all. But we'll see where it goes. I'm pumped for it regardless. Hopefully you guys are too. Week 1 of Alpha's here. I'm excited. If you guys haven't seen the Destro AF videos on the channel as well, they're all coming out at the exact same time. So if you watch this, Destro and AF are up now. Oh, sorry, Demo and AF. All 3 are up. Go watch them. It's a lot of work, but hopefully y'all are excited. I am. And I'll see y'all again soon on stream in Alpha. Peace.